I'm focused on the spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, hello. This is Christina Byron. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barn. Today, we're going to talk about some questionable people that Joe Biden decided to commute their sentence, including a judge who's apparently putting kids in jail for cash. So that's an interesting pick there. Also, I want to talk about there was a copycat that well, no, they didn't go out and kill anyone, but they made a threat, inspired off of Luigi, this man who allegedly killed the United Healthcare CEO. And so I want to talk about that. And people need to really, I don't know, get some common sense back and realize that you can't just go around praising terrorists, because I mean, this was, I would say, an act of terror. And you can't continue to make such threats. So just because you're upset. So hopefully this example will make some other people get some sense. There's still celebrities and news reports of people saying some pretty, I think, vile things and sort of making excuses for this person. And also want to talk about the Duke lacrosse accuser, how they finally came out and admitted that they lied, which obviously they did. And it's funny, I remember that time a little bit. Like, I remember it being in the news and people talking about it and stuff. And I wasn't following it too closely, but my mom always liked true crime stuff and was always interested. You know, she's the kind of person who watches Buried in the Backyard. And so I just remember her being like, that none of this sounds like it makes any sense, but people pushed it and people pushed it and people pushed it. And there's an interesting figure back then who you guys will probably recognize, who was sticking up for truth and justice the whole entire time. So interesting stuff. But before we jump into everything, I'm going to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream, run my site, and all that stuff. So you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. You guys can also check out different merch that's available at the store. That does also support. Like, I have my black tea mug way up behind me in the corner there. But I also have t-shirts. I'm not the victim you're looking for. Well, I guess we don't really. If you still want to get the defeat Joe Biden, now white supremacy shirt. Just if you ever want a reference in the back for all the racist stuff that he said and done. We got the GOAT t-shirts and hoodies, and here's a closer picture of that. You guys can also support by doing super chats, or if you're watching back later, you guys can do stickers, and you guys can also give stars if you're watching on Facebook. I don't know why Facebook took away my monetization otherwise, but that's the only one that they allowed is the stars. So you guys can still do stars, but the best way to support is to go right on the website. I do encourage you guys to also go to blacktnews.com. Well, if you go to blacktnews.com, on the merchandise page, there's a banner that'll take you to my book website where you can see some of my stuff. I have 18 books published altogether. So last night it was really late too. It was like not I guess really late to me. It would be like 1 a.m, something like that. But it was late, and my sister called me, and she said that her my niece Sophia, her teacher, wanted all the kids to bring in some books, and they were going to like gift books to one another, or she was going to give them books and she was going to gift them to the students. And I guess she would make up the difference, and they could be new or they could be used, but they wanted to give out the gifts or whatever. And so she wanted them to be chapter books. And I'm like, can everybody in her class read chapter books? But and so Sophie didn't really have any chapter books, and so she's like, oh well, we can ask Daniel because he has Super Kid. And I'm sure that Cece would really, that's what they call me, Cece. Like Cece would really like that. And so my nephew was so upset. He's like, no, Cece gave me that book. Cece gave me that book. And so she's like, Daniel, I'm sure Cece will give you another book. So um I I was just like, yeah, I will give him another book. just just let him know it's okay. I'll get him another book. When I see him tonight, at church, I'll get him another book. So that's fine. They can give the book to the student. I thought about um driving to her house and just giving her a new book, but it was late by then, and I didn't want to wake up that early and um go catch them before they went to school. So I just interesting life story. It's a good story if you have kids in your life, or grandkids or kids of your own, or nieces and nephews. It's an interesting story. I also have books for older readers as well. There's a link on my description if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube that'll take you to an Amazon page where you guys can check out some of those books for yourself. So let's just jump right into it. I don't have any announcements. I want to really quickly talk about something stupid that Whoopi Goldberg said before we get into the sentencing situation. Because there's a lot of people talking about the healthcare, and so Whoopi Goldberg doesn't quite know what insurance is, apparently. So she's getting a little reamed on, you know, and rightly so. But they say the dumbest stuff on The View.
There are things we can fool with and things we can't. Healthcare is one of those things that you shouldn't be able to fool with. And insurance companies who you pay, I pay into my insurance, you pay into your insurance. I don't understand. If I don't go to the hospital for a whole year, where's my money? Why don't you give me the money back? Then you don't have to worry about it. Because I feel like, I said this, okay.
We got Bill coming on.
I know we got Bill coming. But
Yeah, so I think maybe that's a Bill Clinton episode. Someone said, when doesn't Whoopster say something stupid? There are rare occasions. Some time ago, Whoopi Goldberg had gotten into trouble over some comments that she made about Hitler and the Holocaust and Jews and why they were targeted and stuff, and their race versus and ethnicity versus the religion and so on. So there are some people who were really upset by her comments, so much so that she went on a late night show, I can't remember which host, to basically try to clean it up. And she just kind of doubled down on it, and it was worse. So she had 2 weeks off. She didn't get fired. I think it was other people who were maybe not ideologically aligned in the way that she was, and maybe they would have let them go. But my commentary, if you recall at the time, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised completely if they let her go, because people are very sensitive to this kind of stuff. But they pay her to say stupid stuff all the time. So if ABC is like, oh no, Whoopi Goldberg said something controversial and stupid, that's literally what they pay for. They don't pay for her to be Thomas Sowell or somebody like that, She's there to mouth off her stupid opinions, and she happens to be rich and very famous and a household name from her work being an actress all these years. But she doesn't have great opinions. Now, this opinion that she's trying to espouse about the insurance here, insurance is about risk. Like she said, you pay all this money into insurance and you don't get sick, you don't go to the hospital. Why don't they send your money back? It's not what it's designed to do. You don't know what you're paying for. You don't know anything about the system. Hopefully your accountant or somebody is handling your finances, because so companies, they would like for you to pay into it and never use it. Like, you got car insurance, they make you buy car insurance. You can't drive a car. I assume it's probably everywhere basically in the country, but it's definitely in Michigan. You cannot drive your car without insurance. And if they catch you without it, they can tow your car away, and they will, give you a ticket, and you'll have to pay a fine or whatever. They may not decide to tow your car, whatever, but they can do that. And they don't have to stop you for some kind of cause. Like, they can just scan your license plate and see that it's not covered, pull you over and write you a ticket. And again, they can't tow your car if you don't have the insurance. But you're supposed to have the insurance. You're made to if you're on the road, you're driving in your car, they want your vehicle insured, because if something happens, they want to make sure that you're some kind of catastrophic accident, you hit somebody, that you can cover them, you cover yourself, and so on. So if you never get into an accident, you might get some kind of like good driver's rebate or something, but they're not gonna send you back all the money that you paid in insurance over the year. That's not what it's designed to do. If you got into a really bad accident or something, those are big expenses that a lot of people don't have in their savings in case something like that happens. They don't have on the fly in case something happens. So it covers a big cost that maybe you normally can't pay, but you have to keep paying into it over and over and over and over again to be covered. It's the same thing with your house and, your renter's insurance, and of course health insurance. You pay into it, and there's people who have it and never go to the doctor. When I worked at the Michigan Republican Party, they had really good insurance, and I don't think I went to the doctor. Maybe that's not great life advice, but I think the only time I used it was that I used it for for glasses. And you're like, Christina, you need glasses? If you follow me, you can see me switching all the time. Yes, I need glasses. And I have glasses. I had misplaced them for a while, and they kind of broke, so I need a new pair. So that's where we are in the glasses. But they had really good coverage for stuff. And even like 1 year, they said that the insurance price was increasing, but the Republican Party decided to eat the cost instead of really passing it over. They were really, really good, on for as far as taking care of their people. So but people will pay into insurance and not use it all the time, but usually, people have it. They'll try to sorry, there's a spammer in my comments. I'm trying to get rid of him. People will try to people will, use it for doctor's visits and their kids and other stuff like that. Usually people will have insurance through their employers. A lot of people who are really low income, they'll have it through the state. I could understand if her argument was there's a lot of people who they take it out of their paycheck, and and they don't qualify for the government insurance, even though the money out their paycheck is paying for that insurance. Like, I would feel like, how come I'm paying for everybody else's insurance yet I don't get covered by the state? That's an argument I could understand, but just not knowing that they don't send you a check back just because you didn't go to the doctor, you didn't go to the hospital. That's really absurd. It's really, really absurd. And it's interesting that she doesn't know that. Now, people have been saying it's wrong if you're paying into insurance and there's things that it's supposed to cover, and then when you really need it, they deny your claim. That's different. Okay? That's different, but that's not what she's saying. She- that's not what she's saying. So, people don't understand what insurance is. It's all a game of risk. I mean, you pay for life insurance, right? You pay for life insurance. A lot of people have life insurance with their employer, whatever. You have to sign out all this stuff. Like in the event that you die, it's going to go to a certain person. My mom had life insurance. Recently we collected on that. My dad has life insurance, but every month that he's not dying, we don't get a check back because he's still with us. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. You're paying for the time until that you are, that you need it. And their hope is that you never, ever, ever really have to use it. Now, if it's life insurance, eventually you're going to need that eventually, especially if you keep your coverage. But car insurance, they would love if you just keep paying and no one has to collect on that. But yeah, they don't send you a check back, Whoopi. Like they don't send you a check back. Anyway, let's talk about President Biden. So President Biden decided to commute the sentences of a crap ton of people, and they're bragging that it's the most ever that's coming from the White House from this point of time in a president's first term. And people have some questions. Like the other day, there was some news that came out about some of these people who had their sentences commuted and stuff. And there was some Chinese spies and some people who got caught on some porn charges. And now that was in some kind of agreement with some kind of deal with China, I guess, but still very interesting. But this one is pretty darn interesting, and Biden is getting slammed for it by some folks. Here we go. Let's go through this article really quickly. Biden slammed for commuting the sentence of a notorious kids for cash judge convicted of imprisoning juveniles for $2.1 million in kickbacks. So I would just love for Democrats to tell me why this is a great thing. The corrupt former Pennsylvania judge convicted of funneling juveniles. Sorry, these ads are getting me. To for-profit detention facilities in exchange for $2.1 million in kickbacks had his lengthy prison sentence commuted Thursday by President Biden. Former Luzerne County Judge Michael Conahan, the jurist at the center of the so-called Kids for Cash scandal, was among 1,499 commutations the 82-year-old lame duck president granted in the largest presidential act of clemency on a single day in modern history, according to the White House. And the press secretary was just bragging about it, just so happy. The mother of a victim of Conahan's disturbing crime fumed upon hearing of his commutation. I am shocked and I am hurt, Sandy Fonzo, whose son committed suicide after he was locked up as part of the scheme orchestrated by Conahan and former judge Mark Saravila, said in a statement. Yeah, I'd be upset too. Conahan's actions destroyed. These ads are just. Come on, New York Post. Sheesh. Conahan's actions destroyed families, including mine, and my son's death is a tragic reminder of the consequences of abuse of power, she added, according to the Citizen's Voice. This pardon feels like an injustice for all of us who still suffer. Right now, I am processing and doing the best I can to cope with the pain that this has brought back. Conahan, 72, pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy charges for his role in the scheme and was sentenced to 17 and a half years in prison in 2011. He was released to home confinement in Florida at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in June 2020. I don't think we should have released all those people or whatever, but hey, you know, it is what it is. I guess it happened about 4 years ago now. At the time of Conahan's sentencing, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Pennsylvania described the judicial scandal as the worst in Pennsylvania's history. More than 2,500 children between 2003 and 2008 were potentially given disproportionate sentences by Conahan and Ciavarella. I said that name differently. In order to populate the private detention centers, paying them the kickbacks, investigators believe thousands of juvenile sentences were vacated by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court in the wake of the scandal. America was built on the promise of possibility and the second chances, Biden said in a statement on his mass commutations. I have great privilege of extending mercy to people who have demonstrated remorse and rehabilitation, restoring opportunity for Americans to participate in daily life and contribute to their communities. I will take more steps in the weeks ahead. My administration will continue reviewing clemency petitions to advance equal justice under the law. So there's still more to come, man. There's still more to go. Wow. That's messed up, guys. That's messed up. We're talking about people had their children sentenced and they took their own lives. So that's something that they have to live with, the people left behind. And then they are like, okay, they had justice. And then they're probably annoyed that they got to go home during COVID or whatever. But why not just let them finish out their sentence in the very least, you know, at home then? They already got a break. They already got a break with that. And so you want to grant them clemency? I don't understand this. Someone who's a Democrat can feel free to explain it to me. Like, I don't understand what is the intended goal for that. Now, I think the real answer is that Biden didn't look at all the stuff. And as far as all these people, you know, having their sentences community, he hasn't looked at all these lists of folks, you know, but why is a staff deciding on all this? Now, maybe there's deals and handshaking and this person knows this person and so on. Sometimes it's about who you know. Like when Kwame got, out, there was, when was I at the White House? I think it might have been Black History Month. Maybe. I was there with my dad, two of my sisters, and my aunt and my uncle showed up too. And I think that was maybe Black History Month. And then someone had come also from Detroit and stuff, and they were a Democrat, and they were trying to petition on behalf of Kwame Kilpatrick and wanted to get them a letter to the president. It's so funny story. My uncle actually helped to pass that letter, along to get into Trump's hands. And so I'm not saying it wouldn't happen otherwise or whatever, but eventually he ended up, getting Kwame out of jail, which Kwame is very grateful. And Kwame ended up, endorsing Trump and stuff. He was actually at the final rally in Michigan. And he worked quite a bit with the Trump team, particularly with urban engagement and stuff. And so my sister got to know him pretty well. He actually came to my mother's wake. It was at a time where I wasn't there, so I didn't get to meet him there, but I met him at another event briefly, and then I got to talk more to him that night. And actually his conversation with what he was kind of filling out with the people on the ground in the barbershops and so on, he was saying, now people are saying they're voting for Trump. People are saying their clients are voting for Trump, but nobody's like talking about it. And so he thought that he was gonna be able to pull out a win. So so sometimes it's just kind of who you know. It's like, hey, can you pass this along and so on. But I don't understand. That's a large number. That's a large number. But people have probably been working on this for a while as far as who they wanted out. And I don't know why they'd want this guy out, but I don't know why they'd want this kind of press. But at the same time, I guess why do they care? Why do they care? By the way, I have not had time to read the article about this myself, but Daily Wire reported, because I listened to Ben Shapiro's show earlier. It's like the pettiest thing I've ever heard in my life. The Biden administration is apparently selling off parts of the border wall, like with the materials, like unfinished wall, and they're just picking them up, taking to auction places and selling them for like starting off at like $5. So it's the pettiest thing I've ever heard in my life. So they're obviously just trying to stick it to Trump. These people who tried to pretend like they care about the border at the last second, you know, going in trying to sell off these supplies for cheap, because we sure didn't buy that crap for $5. And they're trying to get rid of it just to, let me see if I can find it real quick. It just came back to me. Wire selling border wall. Exclusive Biden races to sell off border wall. Let's go through this together. It's the pettiest thing, but you know what? I don't know if Biden himself was like, yeah, let's sell that wall. Biden is really petty. Trump is really petty, but Biden is really petty. And I imagine someone said, RC said it's the Biden way. It is the Biden way. It's very on brand, but it is possible that maybe somebody in his administration, other people, I don't know how much he's doing. I don't know how alive he is. I don't know how many decisions, he's making. Biden is, from my understanding, a very hands-on sort of guy, but he's very old and very tired, and sometimes it just kind of seems that he's done with it. But he is petty, and I think that he is probably glad that Kamala lost, but I don't think he's happy that Trump won. Exclusive Biden races sell off border wall parts before Trump takes office. The Biden administration is using its final weeks to haul massive amount of border wall materials away from the southern border to be sold off in a government auction in a apparent effort to hinder President-elect Donald Trump's effort to secure the border. The Daily Wire has learned. Videos obtained exclusively by Daily Wire from a U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agent show unused sections of the wall being hauled away on the back of a flatbed trucks from a section of the border just south of Tucson, a hot spot for illegal crossings during the Biden administration. The agent estimates that up to half a mile per day of unused border wall is being moved. They are taking it from 3 stations, Nogales, Tucson, and 3 Points. The Border Patrol agent, who was granted anonymity to speak freely, told the Daily Wire the goal is to move all of it off the border before Christmas. Trump made clear during his campaign that he intends to finish construction of the border wall, making use of the materials that have remained untouched at the border since President Joe Biden took office in 2021. If the material brought to the border during his first term is sold off, it will significantly delay any progress on one of Trump's flagship campaign promises at the border. The government contractor DP Trucking LLC is transporting the pieces of the wall north on Interstate 19 to Pinal Air Park in Marina, Arizona, where it is being auctioned through GovPlanet, a surplus government equipment auction marketplace. They just started taking all the wall that was not used, which is still totally good and usable, and they started taking it northbound. The agent said they're pulling it all off the border. Harold Lambeth, the owner of the trucking company, confirmed to the Daily Wire in a phone call that his company is transporting the unused border wall sections north away from the construction sites. He said he is unable to disclose further information about the work. Video of the GovPlanet auction site where the materials being taken shows seemingly endless piles of unused border wall material. Another video taken from one of the construction sites on the border shows DP Trucking LLC trucks passing through with the same style of unused border wall stacked up to the back of their flatbeds. The auction website shows that sales occurred as recently as December 4th for precisely the types of materials being pulled off the border. GovPlanet has online auctions set for December 11th and December 8th for more of the border wall material, which is listed on the company's website as 32.91 by 7.91 steel bollard wall sections with grot. The bidding for each section of the wall panels is set to begin at only $5, according to the website. That's amazing. That's amazing, man. Oh, wow. Y'all want some wall? Wow. Rep Eli Crane from Arizona, whose congressional district borders the Pino Air Park, where the materials being sold, said the Biden administration is purposefully hamstringing Trump before he takes office. The Biden administration is well aware they shouldn't have reversed the construction of the border wall. If it's true they're purposefully hamstringing an incoming president, it wouldn't be shocking, Crane told the Daily Wire. Why would they want to see President Trump succeed with policies they aggressively sabotage? The longtime Border Patrol agent has seen political fights play out over the border before and believes that the Biden administration is trying to stymie Trump's ability to quickly secure the border as soon as he returns to office. When Trump comes back and he wants to start the border wall over again, the whole entire funding fight is going to happen again, the agent said. That's their play. He's going to have to fight for this again. The Customs and Border Protection Agency referred to the Daily Wire to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, saying that the latter had jurisdiction over the materials until they are erected. From there, the Daily Wire was referred to the Defense Logistics Agency, where an official said the standing policy is to refer all media requests on this to the Public Affairs team at the Office of the Secretary of Defense. A member of the Public Affairs team declined to respond to inquiries. Trump is expected to use an executive order to unlock funds to restart construction of the border wall that is halted under Biden, with anticipation that it could be one action. Crane, the Arizona congressman, said the last-minute fire sale by the Biden administration is a direct affront to the will of the people. The American people gave President Trump a mandate in November, which included the fulfillment of his plans to secure the border. Crane said any last-ditch attempt to obstruct this mandate by the Biden administration would be a direct affront to the will of the people. That's crazy, guys. It doesn't look like it's in Texas. It's in Arizona, the article said, RC. So I don't see Arizona stopping it because they're still under Dem rule anyway. So that is so petty. It's one of the pettiest things I've ever heard. Because they will try to stop the funding, and Trump was stopped at every way possible. The Democrats would fight him to stop the funding for the wall, to stop deportations, to stop to the media to just go into a frenzy at the border, to cause all kind of moral outrage. Now Trump things might be a little bit different, obviously, because there is a mandate, and people say, well, he didn't win by that much. Like, he did sweep the swing states, but and if they had properly apportioned the electoral college votes and stuff based on the census, because they did screw up, we would have won by a lot more. So he had a pretty good victory, so there's that. But the border was a very important issue for people on the right and on the left, Kamala Harris knew that. That's why they tried to pretend like she was kind of some kind of border hawk. They would run ads with the border wall in there, the border wall that she herself said in the past was a medieval vanity project. And I'm not exaggerating, those were her words. She said that she would not fund a border wall under any circumstances. So she was very much against it. Of course, she and Biden weren't doing anything to secure the border, even when she went on Fox News to talk about the border and stuff. And they kept trying to say, no, Trump was the one who it's his fault that the border is bad, and there's been all these issues, and there's been these women who have been killed and sexually assaulted and stuff, and it's his fault because he tried to stop a border bill from passing this past year, even though that was way before we just opened the border for all these people to come in here. So it's really, really stupid. And then she's like, we tried to pass a bill right away. We pushed for a bill, and then Brett Baer was like, yeah, that was an amnesty bill. So one they certainly didn't pass, and one that they didn't even take up, if I'm not mistaken. So she was so bad at this campaigning thing. But if she was going to try to run and make herself like Trump, that what was the point of people voting for her anyway? She should have just been authentic and crash and burn instead of really pretending to be something that she wasn't. You know, it was just nuts. But now they were trying to pretend that they were pro wall. They were trying to pretend that they were tough on immigration. They're going to be border hawks for the purposes of winning the election. And now that the election is over, we know that these people are selling what's left of the border wall. That's crazy. That is nuts. I hope this story gets more traction. I'm glad I remembered it and read it to you guys. Glad I remembered. Make sure you tell the lefties about it, because again, they were out here trying to say, oh, that she'll be good on the border. She'll be good on the border, and it's Trump is the one who's bad for the border. He tried to kill the border deal, and even though there are reasons for them not to like that deal and for Republicans to be against that deal. And by the way, at this same time that they were complaining about how Trump didn't want this other border bill passed, there was another border bill that the House did pass that Chuck Schumer would not take up because they didn't like it. The Democrats didn't like it because it was too harsh in their opinion. So they wouldn't take up a bill that had already been passed. The bill that they were talking about in the Senate that Trump, killed or whatever that they say for making phone calls and saying don't pass it or whatever, that the House didn't agree to that, man. It didn't go to that process. So there was something that was already passed that they could have moved forward on. But let's be for real. The Senate wasn't going to support it. Chuck Schumer wasn't going to support that. And Joe Biden wasn't going to sign it because at the end of the day, they still want all these people to come in. And I guess they will until they're dead sure that these will not be reliable voters. I have seen some people on the left say like Trump should just deport all these people because we can't rely on their vote anymore. So anyway, let's move on. I want to talk about Crystal Magnum. Years ago, she accused some players, the Duke lacrosse players, of raping her. And the story didn't make sense. Like there was no DNA on her. She couldn't really point them out. And the details were sketchy. And of course, they didn't end up going to jail or anything like that. But there was a firestorm in the media, and so many people still bring up the case, as if justice wasn't done. But that it was a really big firestorm at the time, and a lot of people wouldn't stick up for these kids. But she came out and recently admitted that she had lied. So I'm just going to play her confession, and then I'll play you something else from the past. And there's someone who you may remember or may recognize, not necessarily. You'll recognize them for their work today.
And I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't. And that was wrong. And I betrayed the trust of a lot of other people who believed in me. Um, and made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God. And that was wrong. And I hope that they can forgive me.
So someone says sounds like Stormy and Jean E. Carroll case. I don't. Well, Stormy, Stormy's story kept changing. E. Jean Carroll. I don't want to say too. I never want to say too much about E. Jean Carroll because she be suing people out here. But I obviously there's things about Miss Carroll that we raise our eyebrows at, right? Including telling Anderson Cooper live on CNN that she thought rape was sexy. So yeah, there was that case and so many throughout the years where it just really makes it important for people to say we need due process, don't jump to conclusions, you need to follow the evidence. And this mantra of believe all women was a not good. Like you want to be there for victims and make sure that they have justice, but you want to make sure that you don't necessarily create a victim like these lacrosse players became victims and they tried to ruin their lives. Like they tried to ruin Kavanaugh's life. And if you're not successful after you've tried to ruin people's lives, they act like what they did wasn't that bad. Like, but he's on the Supreme Court. Yeah, but you guys tried to ruin his life, not just get him off the court. I will never forget USA Today wrote an article talking about like Kavanaugh had talked about how much he loves coaching girls basketball. Like he loves that. It, help teaching them how to play, teaching them the skills like the teamwork, all that stuff. If it fulfills him, he loves to do it. USA Today wrote an article talking about how they didn't think it was appropriate for him to coach basketball to girls anymore after like the allegations and stuff was going on. And I'm like, they are trying to tear everything away from this man because he accepted the opportunity of a lifetime. And they're trying to do it based off of the craziest allegations. The Christine Blasey Ford didn't have a time, date, location on any of that stuff. Everybody involved said it didn't happen. But yet, everybody was willing to go to bat for her. And then they mocked him. They mocked Kavanaugh. They mocked him for being outraged. They mocked him. That's the thing. Like they accuse you and then they mock you for fighting back. Like Pete Hegseth, they use like an email from his mom to attack him, and then his mom comes out and explains stuff, and she sticks up for her son, and then they mock him for bringing out his mom. They mocked Kavanaugh for being outraged. Donald Trump said, I didn't do this thing. This crazy. This lady's a wacko, and then that's what she's suing him on for, like denying that happened. That's why they keep saying he's sued for he is liable for sexual assault. It's not some kind of criminal case where they proved beyond any reasonable doubt that he assaulted somebody. And she had said that he raped her, and the court didn't even believe that, so they took it down. Maybe they compromised on what the conclusion that they came to. But if you deny it, they want to destroy you. It's like you just have to they want you to take it on the chin, like take the L and just let them destroy you. So it's insane. And I remember there was an article, it was by Jamil Hill, about Brett Kavanaugh during that time. And so she was talking to a group of black men about it. And she was surprised that the black men were on his side saying, well, what about due process? And she was just kind of floored. And so then, she went on her article and stuff talking about like how black men, well, she was trying to figure out like what it was that kind of led them to that conclusion. And she's like, oh, black men have been like falsely accused so many times, blah, 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 historically. And yeah, that's true. Like men, they expect that when they get somebody who is, politically not the right person, and they come after them and they attack them, they expect everyone to just be overwhelmed with shotophoria. That's like getting off on other people's pain. And we just want to, basically lynch that person. But a lot of people out there is like, no, if you guys can do this to this person, you guys can do it to me. So if you guys can throw these really shady accusations against Brett Kavanaugh, including like him participating in some kind of gang rape train. There was more than the Christine Blasey Ford allegations, and CNN be like, we just heard something, so we're gonna air it live and not and let you guys know right now. Talk about it. It was a wild time during the Kavanaugh hearing. But if they can do that to that man, minorities and other folks are like, well, what can they do to me? So no, they don't just want to see a pound of flesh get what the media, whoever thinks is coming to them. They want real justice. They don't want social justice. And there is a very big difference. There's a very big difference. So, people coming after Trump, for him being a 34 count felon, and which he's not actually a felon because you have to be sentenced to be a felon. I wish I had kind of known that fact earlier so I could just like push that he wasn't a felon. I guess that's what we should have really pushed earlier, but I didn't really learn that until recently. But no, he technically wasn't a felon. You have to be sentenced. But anyway, the case was stupid. He was convicted, but it was a stupid case, and we all know the details of the case. So every time people bring it up as some kind of like, oh, Trump is bad because of 34 counts, I'm like, that case was stupid. Every time you mention it, I resent the fact that you're mentioning it because justice was not done. And if you guys can do that to Trump, you can do it to someone else. We don't want social justice. We don't want political prosecution and persecution. We want actual justice. And you coming after somebody because you don't politically agree with them, that's not good, because it's only going to be a matter of time before you come for me because we disagree. So no, I'm not going to be cool with you just going after people that you don't like and throwing the book at them when there's no kind of evidence that warrants that kind of punishment. Nothing. And they just didn't understand that. They just thought everyone was going to be on the lynch train. They just thought everybody was going to be on the lynch train. And maybe it's because there's a lot of history with people just kind of going along with that. But there has been a shift, and I think there's a cultural shift happening now. But I thought it was interesting, as people are flashbacking to that time with the Duke lacrosse team, that there was somebody that you guys may recognize who was a part of the defense there. So I'm going to play this video if you haven't seen it yet today.
City joining us now from Raleigh. Stephen Miller, a columnist for the Duke Chronicle, a student newspaper. You have 88 professors, actually 87 of them. One didn't sign this, they put out another letter saying we're not going to apologize. And I'm just stunned. Not only will they apologize, but they run away. We even called professors who weren't on the list to try to get an idea of what was happening on campus. They won't talk. You, a student, pretty much the only person who'll talk to us. What's going on?
Well, you have a situation here where, like a lot of college campuses, you have this segment of professors that's very powerful and very, very far to the left. And for the first time, a lot of students, and in a way the American public at large, saw the depths and the ferocity of that radicalism. And for the professors, for the first time, they were confronted about the radicalism, and now they're all running for cover, because if you take a professor that signed that ridiculous ad and sat them down and gave them even the most mild interrogation, they would fall apart and they would look like the baseless charges that they were. And so you have a situation where, on the one hand, they realize there's absolutely no foundation for anything they did, but on the other hand, they're not going to confront the flaws of their own radical and divisive ideology.
But what kind of message does this send students who might want to take their courses? I mean, they're obviously I think, irresponsible, these people. But everybody makes mistakes. They might have acted emotionally. All I have to do is say, maybe it was a mistake. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have jumped off like that. And let's have a discussion about it. But they won't even do that.
Well, that's the truly depressing thing about this, is you could have had a situation where they might have said, all right, look, we rushed to judgment. We thought something happened. It looks like absolutely nothing happened now. We made a mistake. We shouldn't have done it. But instead, they're standing by their original statement, which speaks to the fact that for them, this was never about what happened to this particular woman, according to her testimony, nor was it ever about these players. It was always for them about their political agenda. And their political agenda has been from day one to make a big issue out of racism and gender and class warfare. If you look at the ad, 80% of the professors that signed it claim a specialty in either race, class, or gender. And they all clamored for wide, sweeping institutional reform that would give them more power and more initiatives and more money and all that sort of thing.
But why aren't the other professors on campus, and maybe the chancellor, speaking out and giving some kind of balance? Because right now what you have is a Columbia University situation. Duke is now being portrayed, and it may well be true, as a radical left university with no voices of moderation.
So yeah, that's the Stephen Miller, who's a former senior advisor to President Trump, and yeah, he was stand up for justice even back then. Made his splash on the political scene. So it's a shame how long this kind of stuff has been going on and continues to go on. And then, the Obama administration, they just in general, they didn't decide like, oh, we need more due process. We need to make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen again. It was basically, you're accused on college campus, you're a young man, you're screwed. You don't get due process. And so Trump rolled that back, some of the policies or whatever they were inflicting upon the college campuses. And then the left tried to act like, oh my gosh, she's pro sexual assault on college campus. No, absolutely not. But we need to make sure that you can't just lie on people and destroy their lives. Like both, like justice needs to be done. And sometimes the men are the victims. It's just the truth. And I already mentioned that I remember this time, in the kind of conversations that like my mom was into true crime and all that other kind of stuff. And she'd be watching the news, especially when stuff like this was going on. And she obviously didn't believe, I don't want to say obviously, I guess people did believe the accuser, but she didn't believe her. There was no evidence and stuff. But I remember the sentiment was just kind of like, they are so lucky. They're so lucky that they got off, even though the data and stuff was there to support it. But they were concerned, like, man, what if these were like broke Black kids who got accused? They would just be like maybe nailed to a wall. Now I don't know about that because folks are so woke, but I don't know. That was a sentiment at the time. She grew up in a she was born in 1957, so they definitely saw some more, racial things where it was tipped in an unfair kind of way against Black people. But that was just kind of the sentiment. It shouldn't have went as far as it did, but it was a good thing that they had resources to help them, get out of it. But it was, it shouldn't have obviously gone that far. But good on Stephen Miller. Do y'all remember when there was like a newspaper that ran a story about Stephen Miller and his head was on a pike? Which news was that? Washington Post? Head on a pike. Or was it New York Times? Y'all remember what? It's not. It's not popping up. Maybe if I go to Twitter, I can find it. But do you guys remember that? They were just wild during the Trump days. I can't find it. I'll have to bring it up later or something, but the press was just up. Here we go. New York Times, White House advisor Stephen Miller became public enemy number one with a few late night hosts on Monday. This was wild. This was wild. Yeah. Get ready for more nonsense. You know, do you guys believe that'll be just as radical or more radical, like with the media and the demonization of Trump? Or do you think they'll have learned some lessons and will be willing to work with them more? RC said that they never saw that. Yeah, it was a wild time. I don't know. I would think it would probably be just as bad, if not worse. Like you would think that the Democrats would say, "Okay, we're in a really bad position. We got like shellacked everywhere. We made some ground in blue areas, and now it looks like that ground is lost. People are fleeing to red states, so we're losing electoral power in some of our strongholds, and they're not overwhelming and turning places blue like maybe we thought that they would, according to this election. And all these counties are flipping. New Jersey could be a swing state soon enough, and other places we're in really bad shape. We need to rethink some things." You would think that that's the route that they would go, but them selling off the freaking border wall is again next level petty. Next level petty. Selling off the border wall before Trump can use it to build the wall. Stuff our government paid for, selling it for starting off at $5 at an auction. What? Oh, it's not just petty toward Trump, and they're trying to stop him from being able to attain his goals. It's so disrespectful to us as taxpayers. It's so disrespectful to the American people, and they don't care. So I'm expecting them to be just as awful as they were, in round 1. We're going into round 2, you know. The only thing is that, Trump is obviously at this point more willing to compromise on different things, but they still won't care. They still want him to be the devil. But he does know how he knows more people this time around. He knows how things work this time around more, and he's really focusing on loyalty this time around. And there's some competent, loyal people around him, so we'll see who can get through. But I think he'll be able to handle situations in opposition better than before. But he's definitely going to have opposition. RC says it will be bad, but not as severe. I don't know about that. Kit Kat said, "Morning Joe doing a little bit of bootlicking makes me cautiously optimistic." I think they see where the tides are turning, and they want to. You know what? I don't know if it's just about the tides turning. I think some folks on the left, they understand as well about the ratings. And I think they're trying to reach out and get some more neutrals in their audience. Like when I see Chris Cuomo on his show and he goes in other places and he says things that make sense. And, okay, well, those things made sense before, but you didn't want to say them before. You were like as left as you could be on CNN saying some wackadoodle stuff. But now, since you're kind of wanting, to dip your toes into some right wing media And not saying that you're a right winger as far as what you produce, but you want some of those people to kind of be like, oh, even Chris Cuomo said this, and share around those clips and get those clicks or whatever, get invited on different shows. And Cenk from the Young Turks is, making the rounds and wanting to talk to more Trumpers and stuff too. And maybe he's realizing stuff. I think Anna, and is making some headwind, but she's like kind of repentant. She's like, I was stupid, and my worldview has changed a lot. It's the Democrats who have hurt me. But some people kind of feeling out the area and trying to make amends and talking to different people. They may just be like engagement farming, where they're trying to build their audience. So when it comes to Morning Joe, MSNBC is tanking, and I don't maybe there's not enough of the resistance niche to keep them afloat. Maybe they've gone too far and they need to rebuild those bridges, especially if they want, access. So they have to build that relationship back up with Trump. But if I were him, I would not bother with these crazy people. Some things, in my opinion, you just can't come back from. And when people like accuse you of being like Hitler, when they have that narrative going for a long time and they push that sort of rhetoric and push you being a fascist, I don't have anything to say to you. At least that's how I feel. That's how I would, run things. Yeah, like there's plenty of journalists. I ain't got to talk to you. And I'm not saying he has to go in some kind of echo chamber, but I don't have to talk to somebody who was lying to people and going around talking about how fascist I was and how much of a Nazi I was, and my supporters were Nazis and we had a Nazi rally. Like you don't have to cooperate with those people. There's plenty of other fish in the sea. I heard people say like people should regularly go, JD Vance should regularly go on, different podcasts and stuff while throughout the presidency. I think that's a great idea. They don't have to deal with those people. In my humble opinion. He likes to be liked. And at times in the past, that's gotten him into some trouble because he let in some reporters and other people who went ahead and wrote some really exposing things about him. Like Bob Woodward, for one. And he's let people in who may compliment him but don't share his vision. So he just kind of needs to get over that I need to be flattered thing. But anyway, I want to play for you guys this story really quick. In Florida, there was a bit of a copycat who they didn't go in and kill anyone, but they left a threat based off of Luigi Mangione, who killed the United Healthcare CEO. So she's in trouble.
The nature of the threats, we would also be asking for GPS with house arrest conditions to protect the community.
With her head in her hands, Brianna Boston learned she would be held in jail on $100,000 bond. The Polk County judge adding the bond was appropriate given the, quote, status of our country.
It's not like she's a child. She's 42 years old, so we're not dealing with a child here. She should certainly know better.
Lakeland Police Chief Sam Taylor says his department was contacted by the FBI Tuesday. Authorities say in a recorded phone call about a denied insurance claim, Boston told a Blue Cross Blue Shield employee, quote, delay, deny, depose. You people are next, end quote. The language matches the words police say were written on the shell casings found at the United Healthcare CEO's murder scene in New York City.
We will take this very seriously, and we will put you in jail if you do something like this. It is not a joke.
According to Boston's affidavit, the mother of three told police she did not own firearms and was not a danger to anyone. But she added, healthcare companies played games and deserved karma because they are evil. Similar to the accused shooter in Manhattan, Boston is getting support online from people who say that she was just sharing her opinion and should be protected by the First Amendment, but police
can't
do
threaten
not see
people,
it that
man.
way. She's facing a second-degree felony of written threat to kill or injure, conduct a mass shooting, or an act of terrorism, a serious charge that she could end up in prison for 15 years. Reporting live in Lakeland, I'm
Yeah, if you're, people keep talking about this Luigi guy. If you're trying to hurt and threaten people based off like political reasons and stuff, that is terrorism. Like people who are trying to justify and stuff, like you're justifying and supporting terrorism. A lot of this stuff, it reminds me of rhetoric like after October 7th, and people were saying, well, it's not that I support violence. It's not that it's a good thing that they did all this stuff and that they abused these women and then they killed all these, Jews and so on. But, when you live through occupation and through a open air, prison and all this stuff, you don't have many options, and it's kind of justified. They justify without trying to say that it was justified, but they were totally justifying it. So it's okay to just condemn what happened. Like you don't have to necessarily shed tears over the guy if you don't like the guy. But this kid, Luigi, he's rich Ivy League kid who from my understanding, wasn't a customer of Health United. So I don't even know why he ended up picking Brian Thompson as a target, other than the fact that he's a CEO. But I don't see why folks should praise this guy. He could have lived his life using his fortune and his money and influence and education to just pay for other people's medical bills. That's what he could have did. Like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, all these people talking about healthcare. Think about how much money that was spent on the election. Think about how much money Kamala Harris raised from these donors, large and small, in 100 days, and how much she blew, and plus the war chest that Biden already had coming in. Okay? An incredible amount of money. And Trump had a lot of money too, but of course she like blew him out the water with how much money they got and they spent. What if we helped people with our own free will? What if we helped people? We have the capacity to raise money to help people in need, to cover people's medical bills. When I went to go see Lindsay Sterling, I took my sister to go see it, and for her birthday, and she's a very talented violinist, and she puts on a show like while she's playing the violin. Like she dances, and I think she sang a little bit, but she mostly, she dances while she plays the violin. There's other dancers and stuff. It's a full-on performance. Like they even do the stuff, I don't know what the acrobats or whatever, when you're like on a cloth in the air and you're doing different stuff. It's just like at one point she was like upside down, full spread eagle, just like playing the violin. It was incredible. And she, part of the proceeds and stuff, like if you paid for a ticket, they were raising money to help pay for people's medical bills. And at first when she was like, thank you to everyone who paid like for your tickets, because it went to, and I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh, what kind of charity is this gonna be? Because I didn't want it to be something like I don't know, I was like terribly opposed to or something like trans women for dancing and teaching kids or something. I don't know what, because I don't know that much about her. I just, my sister, I found out how much my sister loved the violin, and I wanted to do something nice for her. But it was medical bills, paying people's medical bills. I was like, oh, that's admirable. That's very admirable. So think about how much charity we could just give to one another if people were motivated to do that. Think about how much money they raised to bail out rioters after, the BLM George Floyd stuff, helped by Kamala Harris, Steve Carell, Harry Styles, and all sorts of other people. Think about how much money is spent in total depravity. There's money out there. I know people are hurting for so much right now, And it's hard for people to pay for grocery bills and all kinds of other stuff. But there is money that we blow on things that are unnecessary and even profane, like even disgusting. And there's so much money that people use in politics, and you didn't need as much money as they spent. You didn't need to spend $100,000 on a fake Call Her Daddy's podcast. You didn't need to spend like $1 million to put your face on a freaking ball in Nevada, and you still lost the state. You didn't need to give $500,000 to Reverend Al Sharpton in his organization right before his cushy interview with you. And I don't even understand that, because and shame on MSNBC for not like asking more questions about that. But he wasn't he going to give her a cushy interview anyway? Like, it was just weird coincidences. All these people got paid. All these consultants pushing money around during the campaign got paid a lot of money. You know? We could do something. This man had a lot of money, or a lot that he was going to inherit. And he decided the best thing he could do was take a man's life who was married and had 2 kids. So now a wife is without her husband, and she is without the father of her 2 children. And it really sucks to lose a parent. So I'm really disgusted with a lot of folks in the world right now. I'm not too terribly surprised, unfortunately, but I am disgusted. I am really disgusted. Anyway, I gotta go. It's Friday night. I'm gonna go try to make myself happy at the church. My cousin is actually preaching tonight. If you hear the opening rap that comes in with the countdown, he's gonna be preaching at the church tonight. So my cousin Gabe. So should be good service tonight. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream, run the site, all that stuff you guys can support. I appreciate you. You guys can check out different merch that's available at the store as well. And you guys can please check out different books that I've written that's available on Amazon. You guys, want a quick, nice, Christmas presents for yourself or your, people in your life, you guys can check some of that stuff out. I got lots of options that you guys can check out on Amazon. If you want to learn more, my book website is ninjadustpublishing.com. Let me pull it up if I have a thingy. Yep. And there's a link in the description. I'll take you to an Amazon page with my stuff on it. But if you want to go read the summaries and other stuff, I guess you can read all that on Amazon, but that's my website where you can learn more. So anyway, you guys, there's also a link at the merchandise page on blacktnews.com that'll take you to ninjadustpublishing.com too. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Be warm. Like, some of you seem like you're from down south, so maybe y'all don't need to button up as much, but it's cold. It's cold. It was so warm earlier this week, and now it's so cold. So bundle up, guys, and stay safe out there. God bless. Thank you guys. I'm glad you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you